Welcome to the Disrupt Now podcast.
What makes people excited is progress. You don't have to be at the goal yet to feel alive again. You have to be progress.
Just do right. Right may not be expedient. It may not be profitable, but it will satisfy your soul.
What matters most is finding your inner purpose.
Welcome to the Disrupt Now podcast, created by Natalie Viglione. This podcast is designed to help humans embrace change, transform, and evolve. Natalie is a cycle breaker, truth seeker, a priestess and healer, teacher, and a guide. This podcast's intent is to live and breathe truth, find and connect with authentic stories, and help raise consciousness. The purpose is to heal and awaken humans, to help you live the life that you want to live, a life of freedom and purpose. This will provide you with the tools, tips, and techniques to help you embrace the fact that it's necessary to disrupt the status quo. Please join Natalie and her guests on the journey to move humanity to a much higher level of consciousness and create more mindful conversations for us to explore together.
Hello, welcome back to another Disrupt Now podcast episode. I'm your host, Natalie Viglione, and today we have Birgitta Visser. She is the founder of Power Soul Healing, and she is a light empowerment coach and a bit of a galactic kite surfer, as she says. She says that she catches the many cosmic waves across the multiverse. She actually just launched a book called Becoming Authentically Me, and our conversation meanders around a lot of different things, but the interesting component of this entire conversation is wrapped around her pathway of opening her mind, body, spirit channels after severe trauma. She, had some major things happen to her when she was a little girl, and this healing from within, sometimes it really is a lifelong journey for many of us in different ways. And often we can find that as one thing heals, something else may come about, or we might find some deeper problems that lie within that we need to address. And so in this conversation, we go deep about how, she lost her childhood to trauma and how she found her way out. And we talk a little bit about confidence issues and how many of us women can really get stuck in this emotional trap. And I truly believe that it is a trap. And it's a trap that's set in our youth often because we are told by society that we must look a certain way. Everything in this world focuses on what women look like. And I'm pretty sure that anyone in their right mind would look at this world and say, yeah, absolutely. Considering, it's what does a woman's body look like? What does her face look like? Oh my God, you're aging. You can't age. Oh my God, you get periods. That's disgusting. It's a lot of negative. It's just so negative around what women truly are. So us finding our truest nature can often, lead to these traps that this inverted society has given us. And it can sometimes take decades to heal this. But it's about talking about our trauma. It's about talking about how our stories, and this really does help us heal because we can see ourselves in other people. And Birgitta, she's very raw, she gets really real, so you're going to find some parts of this episode probably a little shocking, but these are true stories, and we need to talk about them. And what what we really move through is how we can become a little bit lighter in ourself, and how we can start really clearing the energetic fields, how we can start letting go of fear. And often fear can be, show up in different ways, and we go through cycles in our life. And this whole entire universe is about cycles, and Mother Earth is all about cycles, and our entire existence is about cycles. So we move into this conversation, we talk about her new book, and this was, and whether you believe in whatever your thought processes are around automatic writing, which is basically allowing, spirit, divinity of yourself, and hopefully it's a higher positive aspect, come through and really speak through you to help heal. And a lot of the higher aspects and higher dimensions of positive have higher aspects and higher dimensions of negative. So in most and all of dimensions there is a duality of positive and negative. So it is within our own discernment to really get what is positive and what is negative. But her book that we talk about is actually all through automatic writing, and so many would call this channeling, but it doesn't really matter what we call it. It's really about letting the divine come through. And this is something that I also have come through me often as well. I mean, all the time, actually. And the message here is that, Mother Earth is abundant. So how do we move into an abundant mindset when we are stuck in a society that doesn't want you abundant? How do women let go of trauma and what their bodies look like when we're stuck in a society that dictates to you what you should and shouldn't look like? We need to all heal. All of us, every single one of us. And including this Mother Earth that we are on, who is a living being as well. And so in this conversation, we go through a lot of these, but the core of this is opening the mind, body, spirit channels and what that can mean as you move through your healing journey. And our healing journeys are all going to be extremely unique based on our experiences. So I hope that you like this episode. And again, our guest today is Brigitte Visser, and she talks about the archangels and ascended master, galactics, etc., that she's channeled these words of wisdom from, in the automatic writing. And she wrote the book really with the intent to help others heal themselves and unleashing their own beautiful inner alchemists to live an abundant life in all ways. And we talk about where you can get the book and everything in the episode. So I hope you like this episode. And again, thank you so much for listening. Welcome back, everyone, to another Disrupt Now podcast episode. Per the intro, you already know this fabulous woman that I have here today with me. And Brigitte, thank you so much for being on. I'm really excited to swim in the depths of the soul with you because I know that is your language.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to talk about it.
Go all into the soul. Yeah, there's when we were talking before recording and just connecting, I really felt like there's so many directions that we can go, and I can just tell that your work is so powerful. And I figure we should weave into the depths of you getting to where you are today in this soul journey. And, you've had some big realizations. And I think a big takeaway that I've had is what we need to remember is it doesn't matter the age that we have these big, profound realizations, does it? We need to stop putting parameters on that.
Absolutely, but you know what? We're eternal. It doesn't matter. There is no death. There is life after life after life after life, so to speak.
Exactly. So I've shared some of your points and wanderings in your journey. So, let's talk about that because this 3D tar gets sticky. So how have you meandered through the sticky?
Through the sticky. Oh my gosh. Well, I suffered from donkey syndrome throughout my life because every time I wasn't learning, so I got the experiences served to me in a different wrapping, in a different setting, different characters. But I wasn't the smartest tool in the box, so to speak. But where do you want me to start? Do you want me to start from the beginning, the very beginning?
Yeah, let's go there because I think a lot of people. I think what people need to hear is that transitioning of and the power that it takes to move through that sticky, from the get-go into this powerful space.
I think that depends on your experiences. First of all, that depends on your experiences and what you go through. My life has been pretty unconventional, but I signed up for this before incarnating, and I must have been off my head and said to them, yeah, sure, I'll take abuse, I'll take toxic relationships, I will take starving myself, I will take bullying at school, all this. And it's one of these things. If I never had these experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today. But to maneuver from all this toxicity within your life, you have to take responsibility, right? You can't say, well, I'm sorry, but he did that, or she did that, or they did that, because that means you're deflecting that reflection that was cast in the first place, right? And I always say to people this, you have to understand that life is, as Saint Germain always says, the cosmic game of evolution. It's like a board game. You roll the dice, right? And you move forward a couple of spaces and you create and express yourself accordingly. You create your experiences and you're responsible for your life. And I was never one to sit down by the wayside, so to speak. Yes, I could scream at God, at spirit, and everyone, or in my head I would go crazy. But I took responsibility. I soldiered on. But the thing that I did not do, and I will be very honest, is I didn't exactly heal myself. You see, I kept a lid on it. So I suffered from very, very much rigidness, rigid shoulders, migraines, nausea, and I took it out on myself, really. I beat myself up. And
Yes,
and you know what? This 3D car you're talking about, that's what I said to you, is taking that responsibility for your life. It's switching that mindset, right? Because we are in transformational times. Come on, we're not in 3D really anymore. I know that some people are stuck and they're like, oh my God, what the hell is happening in the world? Well, I'm telling you what's happening. Everything is being, how do I put it very politely? Everything is being broken down within the societal matrix because we live in a matrix.
yes.
And
Yeah.
so everything is being broken down and you see everything. Well, we only see part of it. I mean, I understand exactly what is going on in the world. And it's, for me, I mean, I don't live in 3D anymore. I hopped out of the matrix a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't have a TV either, right?
That's one way to escape really quickly.
It's called programming. It's called conditioning.
Yeah, it is. And without that programming consistently in your face, it's amazing. It's amazing how the game changes, literally.
Absolutely it does. But that's the way the world has been programmed, and it's kind of funny. But once you step out of that, right? Once you step out of that and you move away from all of that programming, everything that goes on, I call that the outside chatter. Life changes for you because you start to change within. And so many people in this world expect the change to come from without. And they're waiting for a savior to come and save them. Well, that's not the way life works. It starts with inner movement. And from inner movement, that's when you start to create. And that's when everybody should start to create a better life. And that's how you move. That's how you ascend from 3D to 5D. And it's the same with your experiences. You need to alchemize your experiences. You need to heal your experiences because people cling to them like drowning rats. And it's like, why? Life is an experiment to experience, right? That's what it is. I always say, and it's funny because many of the masters say this, it's like we live in a terrarium, because that's kind of what it is. It's like a glass box. We live in this glass box.
Now, the interesting thing is to think about the process to jump over, I really call them, there's traps that that are set, and it's like if we don't realize they're traps, that these things can box you in and keep you in for long periods of time. And that is really what, well, disrupt now, but we're talking about disruption. So for you, how did you, I mean, let's talk about some of the stickiness that you had to really weave yourself through. You mentioned starving yourself, and I actually resonate highly with that
Yep.
because I did the same thing to myself. It was almost like I couldn't accept this body or something. And it's a
Yep.
very interesting, that's an interesting conversation and like a whole other one, but but let's talk about, some of those things that you really found yourself in, and then how you were, like, what happened to transform and transmute and to really be the alchemist that we all are,
Yep.
but in your life.
So, when I was a kid, I was abused by a friend of the family. And I kind of lost my childhood through that. It wasn't that bad because it wasn't intercourse, but I still had to touch him. So it was different. But as a child growing up in the 80s, right? 70s and 80s, it was in the 80s, I didn't understand. And it's not like nowadays when kids will come and tell their parents, for instance. Life was very, very different then. So
Yeah.
I kept that in, and from there, it was, I mean, my mom caught me throwing up in the sink, and that was kind of the start of bulimia, but she put it, she caught me on time. And I think I must have been like 10 years old. So that was very, very young. And I had no idea why I did it. And when my dad died when I was 14, I got bullied at school because I was very insecure, but I was also, I was super skinny. I was like this gangly giraffe, and I felt very uncomfortable. And because I was so insecure within myself and I held that fear and that shame, and I felt so ugly, I really, really did. To get to a classroom, I would really have to, and there was a guy in the corridor, I would take a completely different route because I did not want to pass the guy in the corridor. That's how scared I was. And then when I finished school, I was so, so glad, and I went into the modeling world. It's really strange because on the one hand, I wanted to become a nun, really, but on the other hand, I wanted to give the modeling a go because my mom put me on this course to try and get my what do you call it? My hunching right. Well, it was so rigid. It was nearly impossible.
Mm.
And I tried the modeling. Oh my God, there is so much abuse going on there. Even I
Yep.
got abused in New York by a hairdresser, and he fingered me. Just like that. I was in the salon, and he was a massage therapist as well. So he had, the cubicles and stuff. But at that point, I was just like, I, I was frozen for like a minute before I got up and ran out of the salon. And, again, I never told anybody. I carried that with me. But even another photographer cornered me in a bathroom. So these were all things that happened to me. And it's a pretty sleazy industry, and it's
Yeah.
all about the outer. So it's very, very superficial. And I never
Yeah.
got anywhere. They would flick through my portfolio and it was like, okay, thank you, next. He just didn't like my look. And so that didn't bode well for my confidence either. And then I rolled
Right.
into toxic relationships from the get-go, and I was very, very scared. And I write about this in my book. I was wired the wrong way, honestly. When I met my first, well, true love, so to speak, in Istanbul, because I was working in Istanbul, because I've traveled all over. And I wasn't sure about him. But the problem was, you know what? I'd kissed him and I was like, oh my God, I can't back out. That would be completely wrong. And I was 21 at the time.
Mm.
And now I would say, you know what? If somebody tried it, I would say, you know what? I'm not interested in you, so I don't want to continue. But that's different. You're very young then.
Right.
And then for many, many years, well, I suffered from a woman problem called vaginismus, which is when you have problems having intercourse because the trauma stops kind of like the penetration. So it becomes very, very painful. And it's a subject that not many women talk about. And I didn't even know what was wrong with me until I was 39 years old, having gone through several more very, very toxic relationships, because I just wasn't learning. I really wasn't learning. And so when I was finally told, you got these dilators and everything, and I was like, what the heck am I supposed to do with that? That's not going to be it didn't really make sense to me. And so in 2000, I think it was 2007, 2008, I got into a very, very toxic relationship. And Spirit were like, well, maybe Brigitta's going to learn now. Well, fat chance of that happening, because I always wanted to make a relationship work, right? Because I had to make it work. So I had to save these broken birds. Well, I was very broken myself, but that is exactly what you attract, because that's your energy, right? And you are attracted to the energy of another person. It's not just their looks, it's the energy that you vibe out. And so, of course, I was a messed up bunny. And he was in Holland, he got into, how do you say, he rolled in with the Crips, so to speak. And he was a crack addict, which I did not know. I had never, I nearly killed myself one time many, many years ago when my stepdad passed away when I was 25 with the wrong kind of friends. And I quickly snapped out of that. But this was on a whole nother level. And I tried to save his life. He wanted to go to rehab and everything. But you can't save someone if they are not willing to save themselves. And that is something that I really, really had to learn, because I had to fix myself. I had to save myself. And my mom, in a very short nutshell, my mom got me out of Holland in the space of 2 days, literally packed up and gone. And the leader of the Crips, he's now awaiting trial in Holland because it's one of the biggest cases ever. He threatened me and threatened my ex to say, because I saved his life, because I helped the police out. But he threatened to kill him if he found him. And he said, you'll find him in a ditch. And he says, when I find you, I will kill you. But I already left the country and I was in the UK. And that was really, really hard for me. And I made a very lame attempt to end my life, right? I took a whole box of Neurosens, which is like ibuprofen. And all that happened was I got a really good night's sleep of 12 pills. And then I woke up with no headache. But I thought to myself, I cannot go on like this, Every single person that I had been with, I had to take care of. I was working my socks off. And whilst they were like, trying to figure their lives out. And that's what I meant with, like, I always soldiered on. I was never one to sit on the couch and feel sorry for myself, because I created these situations. So I had to get out of them. But that was the start of my healing journey. And I went to see a counselor. My mom's like, Brigitte, go and see a counselor. Well, I went to see a counselor. Guess what she said to me? She said, Brigitte, you're strong enough. You will be fine. That wasn't helping me. So
That's not helpful.
No, I feel crap. I feel shite within. And so I researched, and this is how I rolled into Reiki. And when Reiki was taught in those days, it was really, you had to, like, level 1 took 6 months, and then level 2 was like another year. It's not like these weekend courses you have now, because you have to do case studies and you have to do your own self-healing and stuff like that. So from there, I rolled into studying other things and other healing modalities. All the while, still not really eating properly. I was very good at hiding it. Even as a kid, I was good at hiding it. I would just throw my sandwiches out. My mom none the wiser, because I was skinny anyway, right? So,
Right.
Yeah. And from doing all these healing modalities, I learned so much about myself. And the same with holistic nutrition, which was kind of my saving grace, but not what it was. But I rolled into another toxic relationship with someone in St. Pete through a website called Plenty of Fish. Never touched that website. And so
I have heard of this website and heard, people have said the same exact thing. Yes.
Yeah. And he was so clingy and so needy, but I bought a property out there. I wanted to invest, and I just felt a pull towards Florida, even though I'd only ever been to Miami many, many years prior for the modeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the end of my life as I knew it. He had no idea how to sort his life out. He was just lost. And then he lost his mom as well. And he sank into depression. And I said, faster than I could shut my mouth, why don't you move in with me? But he had 2 cats. I'm allergic to cats. And he refused to get rid of them. So he wanted to build a cattery in a back garden or turn the garage into a cattery. And I thought, hell no. And so I made myself ill because I was in the UK and I was trying to sort out my house, and I was working my socks off because every little bit went to the house and, to the people working there. And so I ate my emotions, so to speak, and I suffered from something. The doctor thought it was like a strain of IBS. I couldn't eat. I swear to you, I couldn't eat. I could barely even hold my tea. But I went to work, but I threw up. I threw up constantly. And I had to excuse myself like every 10 minutes. And I kid you not. And then the doctor's like, well, maybe we need to stick a camera up your bum. And I thought, hell no, that's not happening. And so, yeah, no, thank you. And, I look, I knew what I needed to do, and that was ditch the guy. And this is something I'm really talking about because I lingered in my experiences, and they were so toxic, But and I inhaled that toxicity, so it was my own fault, and I take full responsibility for that. Had I gotten rid of him, my life would have been a little bit easier. But I kicked that can down the road because I thought I would be a coward. Kind of like a coward, breaking up from the UK and the US was he was doing at my house. And then, yeah, it took several more years, and I wasn't really eating even in the US because my home felt like a prison, even though it was done. And I was constantly searching. And let's face it, I talk about the fact that I was an illegal alien in the States. Yeah, I have a tax ID. But you know what? This is what people don't realize. We all carry the same light within. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. I don't care if you're green, black, or an alien. Well, technically, we're all star seeds, right? But
Yes.
there is no difference between any of us. I don't care what nationality you are. You and I are the same. We are, we're all brothers and sisters of the light.
Yes.
And so this differentiation is another thing that's very 3D tar, as you call it.
Yes.
And that's the thing. That's the comparables. That's something the Ascended Masters talk about all the time. Why are you comparing yourselves to one another? Nobody's better than the other. There is no good or bad in any of the experiences. Really, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you've been in prison. I don't care if you've been a drug dealer. If you've chosen to turn your life around, then that means you've chosen to expand your awareness. And so for me, it was really soul searching. All my life, I've been soul searching, right? I've hopped from country to country because I was trying to find myself. Well, yeah, hello, Birgitta. You needed to walk your inner journey, not your outer journey, and hop the fence and see where the grass was greener on the other side. But I had to learn that. I really had to learn that. And so I have a very fractured relationship with my sister, but that is okay. I decided to cut the contact, but I love her nonetheless. And every family will have, siblings or difficulty within family unit. But we've chosen these experiences. And so I did Kambo. And Kambo is very, very physical shamanic healing, which is the little tree frog, the monkey tree frog.
Yeah.
And what a shaman does is, so they'll put 3 points on your skin and take the top of the skin. They burn the top of your skin off, and then they put this frog poison on you. Oh my God! The first time I did that, I didn't even know what was happening to me because do you know what? I didn't do my research because I did not want to do that. I wanted to go in without any expectations. That's what I've always done with any healing. Go in with no expectations, and that way you're open. I'm telling you, I was purging so much. It came out everywhere. And the shaman had to help me to the toilet. And I cracked my pants, literally. Thank God I had a change of clothes with me. But that was really, really powerful. So being the sadomasochist I did it 2 more times because, the first time was so difficult because my ego was keeping me trapped and was having none of it. And so I got out there and I felt like I was a puffer fish. I really felt like that. And so I did it 2 more times. And then spirit kind of kicked me a few weeks later. They kicked me out of the house. And they're like, Brigitte, you're going to this fair. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go. Brigitte, you're going. And I went to this fair and there was a medium there and somebody who did Akashic record healing, Alania Starhawk. She's based in Florida. She is phenomenal. So she helped me walk through some of my past lives and also a past life I had. And she didn't know what happened to me. He poisoned me. He poisoned me using, what do you call it, a cynic? And it was a very slow process of poisoning me over several months. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And he took all my money. I was very independent. It was the Middle Ages, and I was very independent. And a lot of people came to me. And he took everything from me, everything. And he just waltzed out into the night, leaving me for dead. And people found me when it was too late. And it was so, so interesting. But from that point, and that's one of the things, like Akashic record healing and light language healing are 2 of the most powerful healing techniques, because when you walk through your past lives, right, you heal on a subconscious level, on a soul level that is deeper than your conscious thinking. And it's really strange, but he left me alone after that for the most part. And the energy changed, the dynamics changed. And so I went for several more sessions, and this is one of the I went to a workshop of hers, and this is where I learned to channel. But I'm one of these, I call myself an antisocial shitbird because I'm not the most social butterfly, so to speak. I'm nice, but people do not stay in my energy field for too long because you will tire me. So I'm very honest about that. But so I'm sitting here in class, right? And how to learn to be a divine channel. And everyone's sitting in this circle. And I'm like, no, I'm not having this. I got a pillow set somewhere in a corner, right? And I just sit there quietly. And then she did a meditation. And when everyone came back, it was like, oh my God, yeah, we saw these ascended masters and the archangels, and we get these messages, and we saw our animal totems and the colors and blah blah blah. And I'm sitting there, and excuse my French, I was like, yeah, I thought to myself, I saw jack shit. Didn't say that. I was really upset because when she counted to 3, I was gone. I have no idea where the hell I went. And then when she counted back from 3 to 1, that's when I came back. And so I was sitting there and I was really upset. And I was crying. I was, wiping my tears with my sleeve. And there's one exercise that she did. And she's like, this is how I started to channel. She's like, I got a pad and a pen. And she's like, the spirit, I'm ready. Do you have a message for me? That stuck in my mind. And that's one of the things that I did when I got home, because I was really upset. And so I did. And I was blown away what I got, I didn't think. It was just, I just wrote, and I was crying tears of joy. That's and yeah, that's how my channeling journey started. But that's also another healing journey. So every time you do a healing modality, or you study a healing modality, or you go for healing, you peel back a layer of that conditioned onion, right? And you let go and you release. And so I told her this. I said, oh my gosh, a channel. She's like, see, all you needed to was to unblock yourself, and the channeling just flowed again. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. Actually, I've never channeled before. This is the first time. Her jaw just dropped. And she's like, this is beautiful prose because it's Old English. And I never looked back since, And now when I go through things, I just laugh at them. And I say to my mom, I said, Mom, it doesn't matter what people think of you or what they say. It is their level of consciousness, their level of awareness. It doesn't matter. Love them anyway. While it's like, yeah, maybe I can't really love them, but she's listening. She's starting to listen now. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. When I lost everything, I mean, I've lost everything several times in my life, and it's okay because material stuff doesn't mean anything to me. But
Exactly.
when I lost all my savings, and because of my mom, she told me to invest in something, which wasn't anything dodgy. But these days, fraudsters, clone websites and everything, and you wouldn't know the difference. So many
Yeah.
people got scammed. Many people here in the UK.
Mm.
And they're like, well, Spirit's like, well, Brigitte, but you have a roof over your head and you have a job. So why worry about it? And you know what? They were right. Because had I fretted, and freaked out, my life would have fallen to pieces. And
Right.
there is no point because it's just an experience. And experiences are not meant to taunt you, which is what people think. And that's why they get stuck. They get stuck in this rut and they can't move forward in their lives. And that's why people don't understand that they cause their own dis-ease within themselves. They make themselves sick, right? They make themselves ill. Because when you're ill, it means you're in balance of love and light. That's exactly what it is.
Yes. It's also the forgetting of the divinity component. Totally being separate. Yeah.
We're not separate. We are not separate. The problem is we think we're separate because we've unplugged from the socket of source, right? All we need to do is plug ourselves back in. But the journey of life is merely a return to love and walking each other back home. That's what life is all about. And the thing is, many people look in the mirror and they're like, they don't love themselves. They don't love other people. My father taught me something when I was a kid. And he said, whenever you pass people in the street that are homeless, always bless them in silence. And that is something I still do to this day. I really, really do. Because when you bless them in silence or you send them like an angel, right, to help them on their journey, then an angel will come.
Yes. Yes.
But I think the key component always is you have to do the work. It's not like many people think that the many archangels and ascended masters, your guides, are like, hey, we're going to wave a magic wand for you and your life will get better by magic. Heck no. Archangel Michael's like, yeah, you want to face your fears? Right. I'm going to shove your face straight into your fears because that's the only way you're going to conquer them.
That's it. It is the hard work. It's the hard inner work. And your journey is, I think everyone can take a piece of all these little pieces because there's this, the beauty of healing is that every time that you step into, like you said, a new modality or moving through, even doing, I do a lot of channeling. Mine is all through writing as well. What's fascinating is you learn, you just go deeper and deeper, or we could say you expand and expand, and it's just the magnificent wisdom that comes from that enlightenment is it's profound, absolutely profound.
Yes, I agree. And it's like riding a bike, right? Or going to the gym. You have to keep at it.
Yes. Yes, that's the other component. So so coming from, through all of, the traumatic events that, just could, just keep, it's like the face planted, someone on my podcast a long time ago said cosmic frying pans. And, I've always thought about that. And that's what it feels like. It's, it's like you keep getting, but like you said, this is the core to all of this is you're going to keep being served the same thing in that pan and getting hit by that same pan until the lesson is learned, right?
Yes. Or you can say it like this, like Saint Germain always says it. It's like, there's this whole buffet of experiences, all these different flavors, right? And what are you getting? You're getting the chilies. Well, if you eat the chilies, my child, then you're going to have to sweat the chilies to go through these experiences and get them all out of your system, to become a little more lighter within yourself.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Let's talk about, because in your work you talk about the raw, collective that has come through to you. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think I'm very familiar with the collective in general and as well, and I think that it's powerful wisdom that comes from this, this extremely magnificent social complex in a higher dimension. And I'd love to hear some of your wisdom come through on the podcast, until people can have the opportunity to go check you out. But I'd love to hear, some of the bigger things that have come through for you.
Oh, a lot of things. Whoa. It's so broad because, even my book is split into two. So I talk about the shifting consciousness that we're currently going through. And I'm
Yes.
they're very raw and honest about it, about everything that's happened from COVID to the agenda to everything. And they talk about, even the masks, and this was channeled back in 2020 already. But they talk about comparisons about World War II and everything. They talk about, well, actually, Earth is the hardest planet in this part of the universe within the multiverse, because there are so many multiverses, right? So
Yeah.
many different planets and so many different species. Because come on, there are more species than you have than the hair on your head. And
Yeah.
we only know the main ones. I talk about many others, but also the Anunnaki, because I have a real affinity with the Anunnaki. But it's very much like I said, with the shifting consciousness, it's like people were so worried, but it was a wake up call. And this is a positive thing. And people are so worried because they're like, oh my God, I'm afraid to get sick. I have to mask myself. And, up there, they're laughing their heads off, because they're like, well, listen, you already mask your emotions and now you're physically masking yourself. Do you not see the innuendo there? And
Exactly.
things like that. And so the thing is, I think the key component there is, you're not this body, you're the light within this body. You are a divine alchemist. That means that you transform, well, yeah, it is transforming lead to gold, but it's transforming your experiences from lead, the heaviness, to gold, to the enlightened state. Because the biggest healer of all is you yourself. It's just that we've lost ourselves so completely that we have to go outside. We forget about Mother Earth. Oh, let's not even talk about Mother Earth, because I talk about Mother Earth, and she has such a beautiful message for humanity as well. But it's like, she's like,
Yeah.
it's honestly, she's like, you pollute yourself so much that you pollute me. And why do you do that? But the whole thing, like, so it's looking at everything that's happening from a different perspective. And still people harp on about what's happening in the world. It's not important what's happening in the world. What's important is what's happening with you, and how you are making the changes within to live a more abundant life, Because if you remain where you are and you're like, my life sucks, right? Then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep complaining about it, or are you going to do something about it? And then the other thing that the collective love to talk about, and they hammer on it, is fear. Because fear is an illusion. It doesn't exist. It's the sticky label in your head. And that's one of the things that I had to learn. I have no shame and no more fear. Honestly, I will say it like it is, whether people like it or not. That's why I always say to people, you can love me, you can hate me, you can treat me like mama. It's all good to me, because I still love you anyway. Because I do.
Yeah. Yes. I share that with you as well. It's, and when you are raw and you're real and you're authentic, people have a real problem with it. And, it's our choosing to say, not my problem.
It isn't. But that's a reflection that you cast towards them. And it's the things that they need to work on themselves.
Yes.
And then we get into that thing of duality. I'm not, I just, yeah, I mean, duality kind of still, it still exists. Without it, we wouldn't understand day and night, we wouldn't understand the differences, the polarities.
And the free
Uh,
will
but
aspect of the universe, right?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Right. Yes. And and
But
and
yeah, I'd say, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I was going to say is, and this, like you said, this concept of, this is what transformed for me, and this is exactly what you're stating, is this seeing other people as self.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, like I said, it's so broad. When I speak of the galactic, like the Palladians in my book, they talk about love and what it is, and the unity. And I was channeling that. I'm like reading it. I'm like, okay, then. And but there's sometimes when I channel stuff, especially when I did with the Council of Ra, the comparisons with World War II, they were coming up. It was coming up with legal terms, and I'm writing this, and I look it up afterwards, and it's really. I'm like, oh, is that what it means? So I know I wasn't sucking it out of my thumb, but yeah. So, they, but they talk a lot about, and I said to them, well. I think this was Archangel Michael, actually. Oh, no, it was the Pleiadians. Where I said, well, but I never enjoyed sex, right? It was traumatic for me. And that's like, yeah, of course it was, because you didn't deal with your trauma, right? And but they also talk about tackle mental illness, what it is, and what is depression. Oh, Archangel Michael suffers from verbal diarrhea. He's really like a Jack the Lad to me. You can have a beer with. Yeah, so they talk about a lot of these things. So they tackle a lot of these problems, and they show it from a different light. And the same with like the violet flame. And I love EFT, by the way, emotional freedom technique, which is a wonderful technique to tap out the emotions out of your system. It's so simple, so profound, that sometimes people think, well, how can healing be so simple? Well, actually, it is. It really is.
Yes. Yes.
And,
I
and then
am
one thing I
reading.
always say to people, it doesn't matter how you heal. It doesn't matter if you want to go see a counselor, or whether you want to do, I love light language, by the way, because it's a shortcut to healing. It takes the pain out straight away, all right? It heals past lives as well. But it doesn't matter. It's your journey. You live it how you live life how you see fit.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And, this concept that you just mentioned, is the simplicity of it, is so true, because, I've really been getting into Tai Chi and working, really working in this inner modality that is a work. It is such a workout on just all levels. And it's so simple. It's just
Yeah.
so simple.
It is. I call that meditation in motion, because I used to do Tai Chi when I was in St. Pete, but now I do my meditation, because Lord Sananda, who was Jesus in a past lifetime. Actually, that was not his last lifetime. He was another healer after Jesus, living in a Greek healer called Apollonius. And that was his last life. But I call him Lord Sananda. He always hammers on breath work, because people don't breathe properly. And you notice with Tai Chi as well, right? It's very, it's about movement and controlled movement. And even though it flows, it's about breath as well. And breath work is so important. It is so important for so much clarity and to recenter yourself. And people don't do it because, oh, well, they say I don't have time, or it's like juju, or, I'll stay pedaling or splashing in the shallowness of myself rather than deep diving and finding these pearls of wisdom within. And it doesn't take half an hour to meditate, or maybe like you with Tai Chi, and half an hour, an hour, and you feel better for it.
Yes, absolutely. I heard this, a wisdom drop.
and where it even came from, I don't even know. But it said the days that you think that you're too busy to do something is the day that you need to do that something, like meditation, tai chi, what, breath work, Vegas, work on your vagus nerve. You do it more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You do. You do. But that's the thing where we live in the matrix, where everything is from the outside, right? Your
Yes.
senses are bombarded, so to speak. And it's like deviating you away from your awareness. And that has been done on purpose.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you something, growing up in the 80s and the 90s, what would happen if you were to take, we only had landlines then, right? There was no mobile
Yeah.
phone. Everyone's addicted to their mobile phone. I'm not.
Right. Right.
But everything
Yeah.
really is a bombardment on the senses. Yep.
Yes. By design. Exactly. That's it.
By design, absolutely.
Yes. So you had mentioned a couple of times a book, so we definitely need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your book, and let's talk about how people can connect with you and learn more. Because again, your story is beautiful, Brigitte, and I'm so thankful for you being here and sharing your story, because it is so powerful. And I love that you're bringing it back to this simplicity, because this is a foundation of truth around all of it.
Thank you. Well, it's funny because I wrote the book. I didn't write the book for me. I wrote the book for the people, and it's only for them. It doesn't matter if they take all of it or part of it, but what I'm hoping is that it will plant a seed for, how do you say that? A food for thought seed, somehow.
Yeah.
And, not everybody may like it, but that's okay. It took me 20 years to write, actually, 22 years to write. So it was a long time in the making. And yeah, it's called Becoming Authentically Me. And it's spelled, so it's spelled a little bit differently, because it's spelled B-E capitalized -C-O-M-I-N-G, because it's a wordplay. And this was the Council of Ra. And so the Egyptian deities, and they said, oh, what does that mean? And they're like, well, change it to being.com. And .com is the suffix, is a worldwide suffix as an identity for a company, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so COM is creation of myself. So being the creation of myself, because you create yourself every single second of, every single minute of every single day, so to speak. Every single day you create yourself and you express yourself. And this is the road you carve as to how your experiences and how your life evolves. And so that was quite a clever wordplay. And so, yeah, the first part is very much about the beginnings of the earth. How did the earth come into existence? I talk a little bit about Lemuria, a little bit about Atlantis, but I also talk about the Anunnaki. I love the Anunnaki. I talk about the archangels and where they're from and the meaning of archangels, because everything is a wordplay on your senses. And we've been so dumbed down that we don't even notice it. Because the archangels, people think, oh, they've got wings. Yes, they can show you themselves with wings if they want to. But actually, when you dissect the word, right, you have ark. Okay, that's the heavens, but then angels. Oh, actually, ark is a spacecraft, and angels are celestial beings of the heavens, right? But so I talk about the Anunnaki. I talk about a life I had as a hybrid because I was a giant. And I talk about Noah. And yeah, great. Well, do you really think Noah built a ship made out of wood and put every single animal in there? Right? Oh my God, 35,000 species and 8 people to monitor them? Oh my God, it would have reached to high heavens. That ship wouldn't have built. That there is no death. And this is something that really hammered into me, because I've lost many people and many friends that also have messages in my book. And 2, I lost to addiction. And so, but there is no death. It's merely a word that's been created in the human dictionary. It's part of the matrix, and people think it's morbid. And this soul that's graduating right from this life is thinking, whoa, oh my gosh, I'm back home, right? I can go back home and I'm going to continue with my journey. And here people are like, oh my God, I miss him so much, or I miss her so much. And it's something I really had to learn. And I think that's a process because everyone, will think differently about that. And then there have been people that and this is a kind of an important aspect, you know, like my dad, well, he passed in 1988, but he suffered from coronary heart disease. So he refused to take his medicine because he thought he could cure himself, but he wasn't there yet. And so one
Mm.
day he hopped on his bike and then he fell off, lost breath, didn't even feel it. And like my stepdad, he had cancer, throat cancer. And he said to me as well, and just like my dad, you know what? We've asked for this. We asked for this because we did not deal with our issues. And so it had to come out of, it had to, come up somewhere. And I've had this a lot where people say to me, yeah, but my husband didn't ask for dementia or they didn't ask for this. And I'm like, but you did. And I am not going to change that because people need to stop thinking in this 3D and move beyond that, right? Into this 5D mindset. And it's like you can choose to heal yourself or you can choose to remain in that pain. And
Yeah.
sometimes, yes, it is too late for people and the physical cannot, it can't go on anymore. But when the soul graduates, the soul is happy. But when people keep crying, it's like they trap that soul because the soul can't properly move on because it needs to be there for the people still on earth. So
Right.
it's quite a chapter that I tackle on that. And yeah. So yeah, I do talk a lot about my travels, especially New York and the psychics and the phonies that I met there. Oh my God,
Gosh.
it really rip you off. And I was so naive at the time. It's like this is a really funny story. So I had to, there's several, but I had to get a grapefruit, right? And then put it in my favorite white shirt and then put $900 in there and then some dust and some pepper and whatever and then put it in a box right under my bed for several days. And then I had to go to this lady and she looked at it and then she's like, well, you have to squash the grapefruit. So I did. And I'm like, crikey, my favorite white shirt, full of
Yeah.
grapefruit. And then she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She's like, there's so much negativity around you. And so she wanted, I can't remember how much she wanted, but it was a heck of a lot more. And I was like, nah, that's not happening, And so what I should have done, is just grab my money and ran out the door, but I left
Yeah.
my money there. So
Uh,
there's
yeah.
so many charlatans out there. They're terrible, and they take all these people for a ride. So I really talk about that. I talk about many of the jobs that I had there because I worked like a dog. I absolutely worked like a dog. I really, really did. Even though
Mhm.
I hated myself so much because I was so skinny. And I even had, gosh, I worked at so many places, but I've lived all over the world, really all over the world. So I really talk about that. And as I said, I really tackle the problem of addiction and, the steps that people can kind of take and what it means, what addiction means. And I also tackle depression because actually I was depressed. I just didn't think of it. It was because I was kept hammering away on myself, chipping away
Yeah.
at myself. So I talk about mental health as well. There are exercises in there. And then I talk about rebuilding my life and yeah, funny stories in between.
Mm, that's awesome. And and all it's interesting because it's like this is a time of such great unveiling of truths that so much has been hidden,
Yeah.
as we well know. And so I love your progression of just starting with truths in terms of what's coming through to you, because that's the brilliant thing about being able to go within your own DNA, move into your own Akashic records, and start to really fully move
Yeah.
through incarnations, because you pull in that wisdom to see what was happening at that time, to pull in the experience. So, what is your website and where can people find you?
So my website is www.powersoulhealing.com. And they can also find me on Facebook, not under my name, but I have a group page called Universal Light Warriors. Yeah, I've just started again where on Sundays I do channeled messages through card readings. I enjoy doing that because it's a tune-up for me too. Gotta keep
Yeah.
practicing.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, Brigitte, so much. Is there anything else you want to drop for the audience before we say goodbye to this session?
Last words of wisdom. Well, I can only
Yes.
say that, well, live your life as you see fit, but do not cling on to your experiences because life truly is a beautiful experiment to be experiments in all its beautiful, and different flavors. Don't remain stuck. And if you want to get somewhere, if you want to move past your pain and your trauma, then heal yourself and go within because it's all about a returning to love and loving yourself. And I think that's key.
It is. It is. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Brigitte, and thank you everyone to listening. And until the next episode, please, make sure to go check out Brigitte's upcoming book. Thank you for listening to today's episode. And please, in the meantime, if you know anyone or you want to pitch your story, please get in touch with us at disruptnowprogram.com, or you can get in touch with me on Instagram at disruptwithnatalie. Of course, all the information is on our website. Again, thank you. And in the meantime, remember, no status quo.